Jessica Marnan, I'm back. We haven't done a podcast in a very long time, and that's because I went back to school. I became a horticultural therapy practitioner. I'll talk about that in a second. I founded a new company called Basker, where I help people use gardening and nature for mental, emotional, physical, social well-being. And as much as I'm obsessed with nature, I'm equally obsessed with watching TV in bed. So each week, I'm going to merge those two worlds together, and my guests and I are going to talk about nature, how it can impact you, how it can make us feel better. That's the outside part. And then our current inside obsession, from beauty trends, food trends, books that we're loving, shows that we're watching. And since this is our very first episode, I wanted to share a tiny bit, this isn't going to be long, about what horticultural therapy is, because I have legit met one person who knew what it was when I told them that this is what I was doing. So horticultural therapy is the practice of using plants via gardening, art, and cooking to help people with their well-being. And like I said, no one's heard of it before, but the profession was actually established during World War I, helping soldiers that were coming home from war who were struggling with trauma. And since that time, it's practiced formally in hospitals, prisons, schools, mental health facilities. The stats and the research on how it is really impacting people in these spaces is just remarkable. And when I was in school for horticultural therapy, I was thinking, why is this just in these institutionalized clinical settings when this could be a modality that could help everyone? So I launched a company called Basker, where I use horticultural therapy practices to help people needing to reduce stress, anxiety, women going through menopause, chronic illness, or just being a woman living today, and people who just want to connect more deeply to themselves and others. And while it's not talk therapy, the thing that I like so much about it is that it's action oriented. So maybe we're learning how to grow cut flowers. Maybe we're doing art with nature. It's a very, very hands-on approach to therapy. And I offer this private and group sessions, and then also workplace well-being programs. And one of the greatest things about using gardening and nature to help people is that there is so much evidence, studies, and support to show just how big this impact can be. This practice is not rooted in pseudoscience, and because of that, I love to share the research to support it. So on every episode, I'm going to share a study in the show notes so you can explore it for yourself. So that's a little bit about horticultural therapy. You might hear me talking about it in the podcast, so I wanted to give you a quick overview of what it is. Any questions you have about the practice, if you want to work together, like I said, I offer workplace, private, group sessions. I do offer some virtual ones too. Reach out. You can head to baskergardens.com/pod and we can get in touch that way. And I'll also include that in the show notes. Okay. I'm really excited about having a podcast again. And of course, we're going to kick it off with our first episode being a very special one with Joey Hernandez. He's been a food, wine, and travel journalist for almost 2 decades, and he's currently at Bon Appétit and Epicurious. I had so much fun talking to him. We got emotional about citrus, which I thought was pretty sweet. I've gotten so many great messages from you all already saying that you are so excited about this podcast. So I hope you like it. We're just getting started. Before we get to this episode, a quick break from this week's sponsor, Week of the Website. I'll talk to you on the other side. Okay, you're going to make a website in a week. A website that actually looks clean and beautiful in a week. And the experience will be fun and easy? Yes! This is possible with Week of the Website. Week of the Website is a female-founded company named one of Inc. magazine's 500 female-founded companies in America. And they've been dedicated to building amazing websites in just 1 week for over the last decade. Well, they might seem big time. They are. You'll feel like their only client. They know how frustrating it can be to build a website, so their team is obsessed with giving you the best web design experiences ever, guiding you through the process with a compassionate, hands-on approach. And if you're thinking, how can they actually do this and do the sites look good? I can say 100% yes, and I am picky. I use Week of the Website when I published my last book. I was swamped with the book launch, and I had no time to make a cool landing page that felt dynamic and custom. the Week of the Website team made it happen, and I was so happy. Their past clients have included coaches, floral studios, restaurants, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and even a beekeeper. No matter what you do or want to do, they can help. If you're starting a new business or need a refresh to your existing site, their Week of the Website launch is a great place to start. It's a custom Squarespace website built in 1 week that includes a dedicated project manager and designer, 3 design review calls, SEO and mobile optimization, and a lifetime of training portal access, and more. Head to weekofthewebsite.com/insideoutside to book a time and learn more. And for Inside Outside listeners, get 1 free month of their concierge support and hosting when you book a project with them. Again, that's weekofthewebsite.com/insideoutside, and I'll include this link in the show notes. Joey Bear, Joseph Hernandez, Never Joe. Welcome to the podcast. Do you care if I read your intro instead of me saying, like, tell me about yourself?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Joey has been a food, wine, and travel journalist for almost 2 decades. Currently, he's on his 2nd tour of duty at Bon Appétit and Epicurious, where he oversees all things drinks and lifestyle coverage. He was previously an editor and reporter at the Chicago Tribune, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Thrillist and Wine Enthusiast. He has worked with the James Beard Foundation on a number of committees and is an alum of so many journalists and art fellowships and has won some awards too. I know you know the premise of the show. I told you a little bit about it. And I know that you have a little bit of a connection to nature, maybe a deeper one currently, more recently. But I want to go back to, what is your first nature memory?
Oh my gosh. So I grew up in Southern California in a gated community on a cul-de-sac called Pepperwood Court.
Can I just back up? I did not know you grew up in California.
Yeah,
You seem so Midwest to me. Listen, I'm from the Midwest, so I think that's a compliment. But
yeah, no, I for sure get it. It confuses people because I grew up in California because my dad was in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
But my grandparents and the rest of my dad's side of the family are from Chicago and outside Chicago. So I spent a ton of time in Illinois and Chicago throughout my childhood, and I went to university in Chicago. So I love the Midwest, and I claim the Midwest before I claim California.
Yeah, because it's like Chicago, Philadelphia, you're just, okay, so
right.
Go back to your street in the gated community, please.
Yeah. So grew up in this gated community in this weird town where, I don't know, the biggest attraction was a mall and the freeway was right there. And it was just strange because, California isn't walkable.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a kid, you don't know what walkable means, but all we had as access to nature was once in a blue moon going to the beach. My parents didn't really love the beach, so we would maybe go once or twice a year, even though it was 30 minutes away. But on my street and in my neighborhood, there were a bunch of trees and a bunch of bushes. And I don't know if you remember the book, The Bridge to Terabithia.
I know the name, but I've never read it.
It's sad.
It's probably why I haven't read it.
It's a children's coming of age book where these 2 kids who are outcasts in their school, a girl and a boy, make friends, and then one of them, I forget which one, tragically dies. But before that happens, they're just 2 kids who love playing in the woods between their houses and just having, adventures in their imagination together and creating this world for themselves. And that was really formative for me as a little gay boy. And there were a lot of kids on our street, and this is, the 90s. So we were kicked out of the house to go play all day.
Right.
Before we came home messy and dirty. And I have 3 younger brothers, and there were a ton of other kids on the street. So we would all just play games. And in, these bushes that were by the house that we set up as our secret little fort, and we would play and giggle and run around those bushes, just hiding from the adults and playing from after school until dinner time. And then we also had one of our neighbors, kind of across the way on the cul-de-sac, had this really low but sturdy cherry tree. And I learned how to climb trees by playing on this tree. It was just the perfect climbing tree because the branches kind of like went up and around, kind of like a little staircase. So it was like easy to climb. And that was really fun, especially in the spring when the buds would come through and it was just very pink and pretty.
My God.
And I loved this when we moved into this house. We had like a really big, not a really big yard, but like a big enough yard where we didn't have a lawn, but we had a number of citrus and avocado trees. So I grew up with a kumquat tree, 2 lemon trees, and a tangerine tree that would fruit. And so my love for citrus goes all the way back to my childhood. Like I just grew up with this stuff. And my mom, we're Filipino and we use a lot of citrus in our cooking. She would make like vinegars and sauces and stuff with the tangerines and kumquats.
So I live in a climate where I can have citrus trees, and I will tell you, it feels like the biggest privilege in the world. Like I feel so fancy, even though, I mean, so many people have citrus trees everywhere in the world, but there's just something about it that just feels elevated or something. Like my life is elevated because of a citrus tree.
They're special. Like when they start to flower before they turn into fruit, like the air just feels perfumed and the flowers are really beautiful and delicate. All citrus trees have like some form of like white, papery flower, and they're just so pretty. I'm tearing up. I really love citrus.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
Now I'm tearing up because and I think too, you grew up in California, but growing up in the Midwest, seeing people in film or magazines that had citrus, it was like this other world life that I was like, I'll never have that. That's like for a certain type of person. So why citrus does make me emotional too. It's really odd.
I've been thinking about this because I now have a calamansi tree, which is a Filipino lime, and I've had it for a few years and she's seen better days, but like I leave her out in the nice months here in New York and then bring her in during the winter and it's whiplash for her. But thinking about the kumquat tree in particular, the one that I grew up with, which was outside my bedroom, and just thinking about that tree in recent years and just like I want to write about it. But like I think to your point about just like what is it about citrus, like it was so abundant. It just like gave hundreds of thousands of fruit year over year, and it did it without asking, without anybody asking. And I could just like go up to the tree and like pull as many kumquats as I wanted and just like pop them in my mouth because they're like candy to me.
Yeah.
And like, it just, to quote another book, it's just like the giving tree, and I was so sad when I like finally left that house for college and I was like, I miss my tree.
So, I mean, it's interesting because it's, going back to your first nature memory. I mean, obviously you were hiding in the bushes, but it seems like it's the citrus that has stayed with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had, I complain about my childhood sometimes, but like I had a pretty like privileged childhood as a latchkey kid, to be able to play outside and to like, have fruit when I wanted it and like have a healthy snack.
Yeah. Well, and what's wild too is I don't know if you've, I love studying old gardens, but in areas where they couldn't actually grow citrus, they would build these like giant walls to protect all the citrus. I don't know if you've ever seen some of these old gardens.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like, it was definitely like a rich, privileged thing to be able to have citrus in climates where you weren't really able to grow citrus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even back then, like kings and queens and, privileged were able to figure that out.
Right. Well, I mean, this is such a cliche, so I apologize, but like, like the fruit is just, it's sunshine. It's biting into sunshine. And like, to this day, it's just like the thing that I gravitate towards when I see like a pastry case,
Aww.
And I'm like, oh, I want that citrus, Danish, or like that glaze looks like it's just that Meyer lemon glaze or whatever it is. Like,
yeah.
I'm drawn to that tartness and brightness.
So when I ask people this question, it's one of my most favorite questions to ask people their first nature memory, because I feel like it informs other parts of our lives. Or I think some people don't realize how much they carry it with them, whether it's good or bad. And I think what's cool about yours is that you can revisit it in life. A lot of people don't have that. It's like that creek that they grew up in or whatever, but like you can revisit it, which is kind of special.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I feel very lucky that I got to have that memory.
Okay. So thank you for your outside. And, would you like to share anything else about how nature has impacted you?
Yeah. I think the collective trauma of COVID really hammered home how much I need to be outdoors. I've been kind of a chubby kid all my life. And
Same.
And I thought I was like, oh, I don't like camping, don't like messes, I don't like being sticky. Well,
do you think that comes from the chubbiness? Because also chubby kid and still chubby. And when people have seasonal depression, I have seasonal summer depression because it's like when people are like, oh, summer, I'm like, fuck summer.
No, because I hate being hot.
And do you think it's the chubbiness factor?
No, I think it's a sweaty factor.
Okay, but do you think you sweat more because you're chubby?
No, I sweat more because I'm
a sweaty boy.
I'm a sweaty boy. I'm of an island people, so humidity makes me my sweat glands activate almost immediately.
Okay.
Midwestern summers that were particularly humid, New York summers that are particularly humid.
Vile. Yes.
Vile. I hate it. And
it smells like garbage and you're chafing at all times.
At all times. And luckily I'm blessed with non-stinky sweat glands, but I still just don't like that feeling of walking through a cloud, right?
Yeah.
But again, my parents weren't big on taking me and my brothers out in nature. So I had never had a camping experience or an overnight outside, a hotel, right? And so I just always thought that I was not an outdoors person. And for the chubbiness factor was I don't like walking, but it turns out I love walking. I get 15,000 steps a day. I like being outside. I like looking at trees. And I think it was the first year of the pandemic, that summer 2020, my husband and I, for my birthday, went to a botanical garden in the Hudson Valley outside of New York because it was one of the few things that we could do. I couldn't have a birthday party, couldn't have a dinner party or anything, which is fine. But he's like, oh, let's go out, to this botanical garden, an arboretum. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. I'd love to go up there. I love it up there in the Hudson. And yeah, we were walking around and I was like, fuck, I love trees. Especially the shade of a tree and the sun kind of dappling through. And I don't know about you, but learning about, I write about wine. I've written about wine for years. And I love a vineyard because they are just stunning and gorgeous, but a little too manicured sometimes.
Yep.
But going into wine, I learned about microclimates and how different parts of a vineyard can feel totally different from across the way, right?
Yeah.
It can be cooler based on, the hill that the grapes are growing on or how close to water it is. So these microclimates just are very fascinating to me because when you're walking through a vineyard, you can read about it in a book, but then you're in the space and you're like, oh, I can feel the climate change here.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is true of that feeling hit me going through this arboretum where I was like, oh, it's so cool under the trees. It's, the temperatures are changing here. It's more humid over in this spot than this spot, which makes sense for this tree to grow here. So just kind of having that contextual touch point and kind of epiphany really connected it to the work that I do. And so I understood better.
Wow.
And yeah, to this day, I just love learning about it more from that really granular level, because I think that's something that we, as people who live in the modern world, lose touch with, that kind of intuition of where things grow better and how we experience nature. I think some people, honestly, this is maybe speaking too generally, but like we'll go into a forest and be like, I'm in a forest. And then like for me, I'm like, oh, I'm in a forest and here this part is like all deciduous trees, or here's where the moss
Right.
grows, you know, and like I'm more conscious of it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like learning that way.
Well, learning moment, if people don't know what a deciduous tree is, deciduous trees will lose their leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and then an evergreen tree will keep its leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I have like a smaller space in my backyard. There are so many deciduous trees I'm obsessed with, but I also don't want to look out to like empty branches all day,
Right.
like during the winter. So I go for evergreen, but sometimes I'm like, should I just do the deciduous life?
Right. And that's kind of the fun part that I've learned as I've like picked up my interest in gardening and just how landscape artists work.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of layering of time in a garden.
Yes.
And like I think that is so poetic.
It is poetic. And also when you're designing a space, it's kind of like you have to like limit and squash the urge to stuff plants everywhere so it looks
Totally.
full, because you're like, okay, in 2 years you'll cover up this space. But it's like very hard to do that.
Right. No, totally. I've had that urge.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. It's very hard to do, but it's because, I planted like 6 different citrus, not to brag, in my backyard. And it's a pretty small space, but like right now it kind of looks like a bunch of twigs with some leaves on it. But I know in a few years we'll be looking good. So it's just, I really feel like nature, planting, it teaches you the ultimate patience.
Mm-hmm. And
I think with the way everything is happening right now in media and digital, it's like patience is not something we have.
Yeah. And I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
So like the looseness of gardening, like you hold too tightly to an idea when you're gardening and that plant is going to be harmed by it.
Yes.
Right. And like,
yes.
I don't want to harm a beautiful living thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like letting go of this idea of perfection, like even I think you know this about me, like I'm pretty fastidious about cleaning, and in a garden, like I just can't be bothered to prune.
Yeah.
like
I love that.
Like outside, I just kind of like let it go.
Yeah. It's, it's teaching you to chill.
Yeah. I need to chill.
Yeah. Well, I loved all of your outside, and we're going to move into inside. But before we do, it is so important to me to let people explore research and studies on how nature can help us feel more calm, even feel safer in our neighborhoods. So every single episode, I am going to include in the show, I always say nits, in the show notes, a link to a journal or research to prove this. Because I think one of the coolest things about horticulture and horticultural therapy and just everything nature is that we have a lot of evidence to support how it can impact us in a positive way. So knowing that you were on and knowing that you are a lover of houseplants, the link that I'm sharing today in the show notes is a study that was done in China, and it's called The Interaction with Nature Indoors, Psychological Impacts of Houseplants Care Behavior on Mental Well-Being. And the results of this study showed that participants who classified themselves as houseplant carers reported higher levels of mental well-being compared with non-houseplant carers. And specifically, hours spent on taking care of the houseplants, the number of houseplants, and the years keeping the houseplants were positively associated with greater levels of mental well-being and traits of mindfulness. And I think what's cool about this is that, in China, they've been more and more concerned just about how urban it's become and how people are getting away from nature more. So you'll see a lot of studies being done in Asia about horticulture and about plants and the connection to us, which I think is pretty cool. So I'll include that in the show notes. I'm actually not, I have one houseplant. I'm not a houseplant person. but I know you're a houseplant person.
I am.
Would you live in New York? I mean, I can grow things outside all year round, but there's something about houseplants. One of my horticulture professors said when you get a horticulture degree, the questions that you'll field the most are about houseplants.
That makes
And
sense.
your answer is you're either watering it too much or watering it too little, and then say goodbye.
Yeah, it's true. I have somehow found a way to care less about my beautiful plants indoors, and like they are thriving with my lack of attention.
Yeah,
I have like a monstera that's 10 years. I'm looking at my plants now. I have a monstera that's 10 years old, an aloe that's 13. I have a bamboo that's 15 years old, and
wow.
all of these plants have come with me like from New York to Chicago, back to New York, back to Chicago. So like, I love my plants, and like, I've somehow we've figured out a rhythm to coexist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like, I don't know why houseplants stress me out. And like all my life is now is plants, but I'm such an outside plant person.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, indoor plants made me an outdoor plant person.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband Dan manages the inside plant that we have.
I love
just
that.
like I don't know why it just stresses me out.
I love that though. You know, everybody has a job.
Yeah, because I think like with outside plants, it's like, okay, I know what you need. You're getting the sun that's coming directly to you, or you're getting the shade that's coming directly to you. With indoor plants, it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more gray area
For
of like
sure.
light and temperature. Anyway,
No,
if
for
you're a
sure.
houseplant person, good for you, because the study that I'm sharing shows it can help with your mental well-being.
Yeah, I have. So I'll say this about my husband. When we first moved in together and I had my houseplants, he was like, "Don't you feel bad that you have all these tiny little prisoners?" And I was like, "I need you to speak to them positively."
Yes.
I was like, "They can hear you."
And they're not prisoners because they would probably die outside.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we like got a little high the other day, and he was like looking around our living room, and he's like, "You've done a really good job with the plants." I was like, "Thank you for noticing." And
Aw.
like he stopped calling them prisoners like maybe 5 years ago.
Well, I love that so much. So let's move into your inside thing.
Yeah.
And the categories are a fun TV show, book, or movie that you want others to enjoy, a pop culture moment, internet gossip you need to discuss, or a food, beauty, or online trend that you love or must go away. Joey, what are you bringing us today?
I am bringing you the beautiful film from director Wim Wenders, Perfect Days.
Okay. So I was not expecting the feelings that I had watching this.
Tell me more.
Okay, so I had never heard of this film before.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized, like, and I think I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but I do think that during COVID, I just started down this path of not being able to watch anything that like has like creates emotion for me. Like I needed it to be like funny, chill, like some stupid reality show.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching this film, and why don't you tell the premise of the film before I give you my, you don't need to do any spoilers, but just like tell the premise.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say though, I am just like you. Like I needed the last few years, like I have found my media consumption I needed it to immediately benefit me in like a serotonin drop.
Yes.
And dopamine.
Like I'm not watching any Criterion Collection. I'm watching like Housewives. You know what I mean?
Right. And this film, I think, is now in the Criterion Collection. I might be wrong.
I'm sure.
Somebody might have to fact check me on that. But it's a 2023 film. I had asked a friend who I trust, just like who loves movies and film, was like, "Hey, I just need something quiet for this weekend. Like, can you give me a recommendation?" and they told me to try Perfect Days. It is a Japanese film set in Tokyo, modern day Tokyo, following a like toilet custodian named Hirayama. And it just is really meditative, and it follows his life over, I think it's supposed to be like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's unclear entirely in the film, like how, like what the period of time is. But he's just a very quiet man who goes to his job and interacts with his immediate surroundings in just like really slow and kind of considered ways. And like it's a really touching film to me, and it also is so antithetical to like how I've lived my life the last few years, where I'm like rush, rush, rush. I live in an urban environment where I'm like constantly moving, and also just like I have a tendency to like need to check my phone every 30 seconds because I am addicted. And this movie forced me to slow down and like really pay attention. And for that, like I needed that lesson personally in my life.
Yeah, I mean, when you sent this, you also included that the New York Times said that this movie is a movie about what we lose when everything becomes digitized. And I think that's just, oh my God. I felt so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not in an uncomfortable way of like watching a horror film or something. It was so quiet.
Yes.
And like you said, meditative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I felt embarrassed or shamed or something about the way that I live my life, but I was envious of him.
Yes.
I was like so envious of him that I felt uncomfortable, but then also I'm envious of something that I could create for myself, like his quietness and his not being on his phone and not playing Royal Match while he watches The Housewives. Like, it's just the subtleties of this film, of just even the way that he would turn off the overhead light to then turn on his bedside light to read his book. Like, it was these actions that reminded me of being like a teenager or even college before everything was everywhere. And I just, I felt really uncomfortable. I had a very hard time adjusting to watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because it's recognition of what some of us are maybe like missing. I think in our modern culture.
But also it's a choice, right? Because it's like, no, I'm not getting a job like his, but it is my choice to not live a quiet life like he is.
Yeah, it's I forget where this quote comes from, but like we are what we pay attention to.
Yeah.
And that idea came a lot to me while in like watching this film, and I rewatched it ahead of us chatting because like I do like it, and like I do think that it is kind of a gentle prod to like assess where you apply your attention and how you move through the world. And there's another part I wanted to pull the thread of like what you said about envy, about like being envious of kind of having what he has.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like I was listening to another podcast the other day with an artist named Tourmaline, trans playwright and filmmaker and writer, and they had mentioned pay attention to what you're jealous jealous about, because it's what you want, like what you actually want. Like it's not about it's not about the other person, it's about what the other person has or what they're doing, and like that can help you inform how you build out your life, like jealousy as a tool. And like that really struck a chord with me. Yeah, this film is just so thoughtful, and like it also the discomfort of it, I think, is the point.
Yes. I mean, and I think another thing that was so interesting about it, and then I have one more question for you, is that when I first started watching it, there was they were speaking Japanese and there weren't subtitles, and I was like, oh shit, did I not turn the subtitles on? But then in another scene, there's a woman that's speaking in English to him,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't really respond with any language. And so I thought that that was interesting too, is that the film felt very like, I'm immersed in this culture, but I'm still, I don't know how to explain it. It just felt like that
Yeah.
anyone can relate to it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No.
I was surprised when I was like, oh man, I didn't turn on the subtitles to then entering into English again.
That's so funny because that happened to me too. I also forgot to turn on the subtitles, but like the first time I watched it, because you hear all of the ambient sounds, right? Like all of the city life and all of that. So like that's going on, but it takes like 45 minutes to hear dialogue.
Right.
You know, so I was like, is this a silent film? But it's
Yeah.
not, but it's not silent. Like we hear life going on around him. He is just a very taciturn fellow who doesn't really speak that much or interact with people that speak that much. So it was jarring when finally like I heard dialogue.
Right.
So yeah, I think I had a similar reaction to you when like the English kind of breaks up the immersion.
Yes. Yeah. So,
but it was neat.
it was, I highly recommend to anyone that wants to feel uncomfortable a little bit or kind of revisit a world. And the thing is, this is not taking place in like 1955. This is current. So
current.
This is possible to live a more quiet life.
And I mean, what really struck me was like, because he's a man of routine. And so like this film is also about the power of routine in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And like both to keep us stuck, but also to keep us safe. And one of the things that he loves is trees. And he like goes to the same park bench every day to like take analog photographs of trees and shadows. And like, I just loved that. I'm just like, this man is like an expert in his world for these trees, right? Like these particular trees and nothing else. And I think that's maybe I'm reaching here, but like I feel like that speaks to that kind of Western understanding of like Japanese love of mastery. And I'm like, oh, like he's developing his expertise around this one thing.
Yeah. Wow. And also how great. I mean, I've been to Japan a few times, and like how fun would it also be to just walk out your door and get a soda every morning from a cool vending machine?
Yes.
So, I don't know how not to ask more questions when someone says something. We were supposed to end it with your inside thing, but something that you said, that quote about look for what you're jealous of or envious of.
Mm-hmm.
What's something you're jealous or envious of right now?
People who have time to create.
Okay.
I'm very privileged with the job that I have, which is like, a lot of managing and like developing coverage, journalistic and entertaining, and like in the food space. But like, I miss the days when I was just a writer. And we're entering award season, and I'm so proud of all of my friends who are getting awards. And like, it's not the point of work is not to be awarded for it, but like to me, the awards mean completion for great work. And like, I wish I was doing work like that.
Yeah.
I think I moved past that point in my career where like I care for external validation like that. But I think that the visible marker of those things show me that people have time to pursue the work of their lives. And that's what I'm jealous of.
Wow. It's so interesting that you say that, because I never want to write another book again. Like, well, I say that and then who knows, but I get so envious. And it's like, it's not like actually like it's not a jealousy, but it is an envy when I see that a friend got a new book deal, because I don't even actually want to write another book.
Yeah.
But it's that idea of like, you have this huge project to complete and it feels like there's a final like finish line, and then you get to share that with the world. And it's a really cool feeling to have. But I understand what you're saying about that completion feeling, or like that they've worked on something that now deserves an award or even deserves recognition.
It's more the recognition of like a job well done. I'm completing a lot of other people's work as an editor, right? And I love it. I love being an editor, and I love working with creative people to build something collaborative. You know, that's ultimately what a magazine is. And like, it is so fun and, you know, wonderful. But I also want the thrill of having my own thing and do the work to get there. Like, I'm not asking for somebody to just be like, oh, like, this is cool. Like, I want to do the growth, you know, that comes with challenging yourself to finish a project.
But let me ask you this, because this is something I struggle with, and then I swear we'll be finished. I was like, I'm going to make a 20-minute podcast. Not possible. Do you find it hard to create something that is just for yourself? Like for instance, I started writing a fiction book because I was like kind of excited. I was like, oh, I want to write fiction because I love writing. But without knowing that it's going to get published or without having a deadline, I have a harder time completing it. And just like, I love creating these huge paper mache objects.
I love your paper mache objects.
But I have a very hard time sometimes just creating them for the creation's sake.
Yeah.
And not knowing like, okay, I'm going to sell this. People are going to see it. And I don't even know if it's an ego thing. I think it comes from a place of, should I be spending this time, this luxury to just create without it actually bringing in money or bringing in recognition? Do you struggle with that at all?
Kind of.
Because you could be writing now if you wanted to.
And I am. But like, I understand that impulse quite well. Because like, over the last few years, this like need to create has like pushed me into trying different crafts and art forms. Like, I've picked up watercolor and I love it, and I'm bad at it, but I love doing it. And like, sometimes I'll share it on Instagram, and like, inevitably a friend or two will be like, you should sell this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to. Like I'm sharing it because I want to share it and like see reactions to it. I think I'm also kind of coming up against this, specifically with you're writing a book or fiction. I'm a journalist and my brain thinks that way, but I've been really, really drawn to poetry in the last few years. And like, I'm trying to write my own poetry. And again, it's bad, but
What is a measure of good poetry though? Like, I literally have, okay, don't get mad because I know you write about alcohol, but poetry and wine are similar to me. I don't know if it's good or not.
I'm going to send you some nature poems specifically.
Okay, great.
Like nature poetry, well, like Mary Oliver is kind of
Mary Oliver, yes. You know, I can recognize that as good.
Like queen of the genre, right?
Yes.
And like, one of my favorite living poets is Ada Limon, who was the poet laureate of the United States for a few years. Like, her stuff is just really stunning. To me, it's a playfulness of language that is universal as an experience, but specific to the moment of the poem. To me, that makes a great poem. And like, I'm still a student of the form. So like that, I'm just speaking as a person who loves writing and editing. And like, I can experience language on that level. And like, I don't think everybody needs to understand poetry to like, to connect with it. Right. Because
there's also kind of a stigma around it too, that it's like, you know, cheesiness sometimes.
Totally.
Like, and I was actually surprised when you said that you poetry because I would have thought maybe there was like a cheese factor for you that you wouldn't be into it.
Oh, it totally, like, I'm catching the cheese factor in my own work, or I'm like, oh God. But it goes back to something that like I learned as a young writer is like, you have to get the bad drafts out, like you have to do that to like get to the good stuff. And like that, it has been really fun to kind of discover. And like, and I am sharing it with like some of my friends who are like interested in hearing or reading my poems. And to me, like, to go back to what you were saying about sharing with people, like, I'm not trying to make a book. I'm not, at least in this case, but I am trying to elicit a reaction, and like the reaction is the prize. If like, to me, if my friends read the poem and they can interact with the same emotional response that I like tried to put into the poem, like that means that I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And so like I just want to get better, and like I think that that's how I've been moving through my life lately. Like I'm kind of, we've talked about this before, like I'm so done hustling. I just want to be a better person. I want to be a better writer. I want to be a better human. I want to be a better gardener. Like the only person I'm competing with at this point is myself, and who I was yesterday. And like I think that has offered me a measure of peace and confidence that I didn't have like 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. I really like that you said that, because as you were saying that, I was thinking the times that I feel most free to just create is when I feel secure financially, and when I feel secure, I guess, just with my health. And I think when I'm in this phase now where I'm building a new business, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should take time to just create when I could be doing these other things. But it sounds like you're in a place where you feel pretty confident in where you are. So your brain is maybe allowing you that space to create, just to create.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning, and, thank God for therapy, but like I'm learning that the energy I spent struggling to survive is not the same energy that I need to hold on to now that I'm quote unquote healed. And so like I have to think about the world a little differently, because otherwise like I'm committing self-harm by like revisiting through the lens of survival. And like that's lucky for me, like that's again, I hope that other people kind of going through their own healing and their own processes of like mental health journeys, like move out of survival mode, because like it is better on the other side. But the tools that we use to do that, just at a certain point, are now like harming you.
Yeah. Wow. We're just going to talk about gardening and citrus trees. Thank you so much. I'm not going to do quotes anymore from the podcast, but you said like 10 things I want to print on a t-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you so much. And if people want to find you, where do they find your work?
They can find me on Instagram at joeybear85.
Which you left, and now you're back.
I took time off.
Okay, you took time off. Okay.
But then like I got mad about how people interact with news, so I was like coming back. But I'm also at Bon Appetit. Joseph Hernandez at Bon Appetit. Catch me there. And hopefully elsewhere, out in the real world and outside.
Yeah. Hugging a tree, a citrus tree. So before you go, we're going to link to all that, but I want to link to, is there any story that you just did or anything that you're excited about drink-wise that people should know about?
Yeah. Coming out whenever this airs, it should be out by then, but the second annual drinks issue from Bon Appetit is out on May 27th. It's the June-July issue. It's my first issue that I led, a first drinks issue. It's really fun.
exciting.
And actually, there's a piece that I love that just got published by my very wonderful friend, Osayi Endelin, that we worked on together for Bon Appetit, about a really beautiful eau de vie, which is a kind of fruit brandy coming out of the UK called Capriolis. And this man, Barney Wilczak, is a former photojournalist, current fruit conservationist, and distiller who is kind of doing a lot of the things that we talked about with fruit, just kind of planting and growing trees and listening to nature and like bottling up that experience in these really evocative and beautiful bottles. I tasted these. I tasted like a damson plum and a couple of like Perry apples. It tasted like the orchard. It made me cry. Like I took a sip and I cried.
Well, I can't wait to check that out. I'll include that in the show notes too. Wow.
Yeah. One of the coolest distilleries I've ever had the pleasure of trying. And the work that he is doing is not to make money off of these beautiful spirits that he's creating, but to rare fruit, to save biodiversity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks for listening. That's the show. You know, we have lots of reviews on Apple Podcasts, but none on Spotify. So do me a favor, and if you like the show, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. It will help more people find the podcast. And if you want to leave an extra Apple Podcast review, I'm cool with that too. And to find links for everything we talked about, check out the show notes or head to baskergardens.com and click on the podcast link. And if you want to learn more about horticultural therapy or how we can work together, go to baskergardens.com/pod and message me. Again, everything in the show notes. Talk to you next week.